If black doesn't suit you or just doesn't feel like you, it can be really frustrating that so many brands default to black, white, and other high contrast neutrals. But at the same time, it's completely valid to like black, or to feel like your style just isn't the same without it, even if you're not a winter or winter adjacent color type. And this is where things start to get a little interesting. Because technically, if you're a soft summer, black is not one of your best colors. And understanding that does matter. It tells you how color interacts with your natural contrast, your undertone, and your overall look. But personal style systems like color type or body type aren't meant to dictate your style. And a lot of times, what actually feels like you might not exactly match what's technically correct. This is something I see all the time with my clients. And the capsule that we're building today is a perfect example. She's a soft summer, she has the soft dramatic body type, and she likes black. So instead of removing it, we used it intentionally. Because color season isn't your full style identity. It's just one piece of the puzzle. And this applies beyond just soft summer. If your style feels disconnected with your color palette, you don't have to abandon it entirely. You just need to be a bit more intentional about how you execute it. And in this video, I'm going to show you how to build a capsule wardrobe that actually reflects your personal style, even when it doesn't perfectly align with your color season. So before we get into the actual pieces, I want to quickly break down what we're working with, because the combination of these things is what makes each capsule so interesting and unique. We're not just dealing with a soft summer color palette. We're also working with a soft dramatic body type and a style direction that leans a bit more edgy. And you might think that those three things don't naturally agree with one another, but that's exactly why this is a great case study. So instead of trying to force her style into all three systems at once, we're going to look at how to balance them. So first, the soft dramatic body type is defined by vertical and curve. We're looking for length, drape, waist emphasis, and a silhouette that honors elongation and feels slightly bold. The key here is that the soft dramatic already has a certain level of visual intensity. So before we even talk about color, there's already some built-in drama within the silhouette. Then we have soft summer, which is almost the opposite in terms of visual impact. So right away, you can probably see this tension. We have a body type that can handle and even benefits from some level of drama and contrast, paired with a color palette that naturally softens everything. And then on top of that, her personal style leans edgy, not overly soft or delicate. And she specifically requested that black or washed black be included in her capsule. Her style words are cool, cinched, and layered. For her, cool means slightly androgynous pieces, tough textures like denim and leather, and incorporating undone or unexpected elements. Cinched means defined shapes through waist emphasis, tailoring, and more contoured silhouettes. And layered means adding contrast through texture, mixing short and long proportions, and creative layering combinations. That naturally pulls us away from a strictly soft and blended look. So the goal of this capsule isn't to make everything look perfectly harmonious on paper. It's to decide where to follow the rules and where to push them. And as we go through the capsule, you'll see how that plays out piece by piece. Starting with tops, this asymmetric off-shoulder bodysuit is a great example of how we bring in edge through shape rather than color. The asymmetry immediately adds that cool factor, while the ruching defines the waist, which supports that cinched element. And because it's in a deep charcoal instead of true black, it honors her slightly softer palette. Next is a simple ivory ribbed tank. This is one of those foundational pieces that makes everything else work. The lighter color gives you contrast under darker layers, which is especially important when you're incorporating things like black or washed black within a soft summer capsule wardrobe. Then we have this washed black graphic tee. The graphic element adds personality, and I already knew from her index closet that she likes Anina Bing. Because the color is slightly faded, it doesn't feel too harsh against her coloring. And the more relaxed fit gives contrast to some of the more structured or tailored pieces in this capsule. Next is a charcoal turtleneck. It's a great layering piece that also stands on its own. High necks are great for the soft dramatic because they create that sense of elongation. And again, we chose charcoal instead of true black. So we're getting depth and contrast, but not in a way that feels too sharp. Then we have this ruched long sleeve in deep espresso. This is a subtle way to expand the color palette, adding depth and dimension in an approachable way. The color is slightly warmer, but it has a red undertone, which works great for cool types. It's also worth noting that the soft summer's sister season is soft autumn, so we aren't strictly limited to cool tones here. The vertical ruching adds structure while emphasizing the waist. So again, we're reinforcing that cinched element without needing anything overly stiff or tailored. Next is a slate gray satin camisole, which brings in contrast through texture instead of color. The slight sheen plays really nicely against more matte fabrics like denim and leather, and it adds a softer, more feminine layer underneath some of the more structured pieces. Then we have this washed black Henley bodysuit. Because it's washed black instead of true black, again, it reads a bit softer and more muted, so you still get that depth and edge, just not as harsh. This feels like the cooler alternative to the charcoal turtleneck that we chose earlier, and the snap detail adds a bit of interest when layering. Next is this cream layered knit top. This is a really strong example of the layered style word built directly into a single piece. You get texture, dimension, and visual interest, but in a color that still feels cohesive with the palette. So it adds complexity without needing a lot of additional styling. And finally, we have a washed black denim shirt. This acts as both a top and a lightweight layer. The structure brings in that slightly masculine, cool energy, and when it's tucked or styled with more fitted pieces, it creates a really nice balance between structure and curve. Moving on to bottoms, this client had quite a long inseam, so fit was extremely important when choosing bottoms. These washed black straight-leg jeans are doing a lot of work in the capsule. The high rise and longer length support that vertical line, and the straight leg keeps things clean and slightly structured. A mid-wash straight leg jean with a slit is another classic denim option with a twist. The color feels grounded and easy to style, while the slit adds just enough detail to feel intentional. It's a small thing, but it helps these jeans feel a bit more elevated. Next, ivory pleated wide leg trousers. This is one of the more elevated pieces and also one of the most versatile. The drape works really well with curve, and the lighter color helps break up all of the darker tones in the capsule. It also allows us to create monochromatic looks in this light beige color. These can go more polished, but they also work casually with something like a tee or hoodie. Then, black slim trousers is a more streamlined option, intended to add sharpness to the silhouette and also to be worn as a full suit with a black blazer for work. For skirts, we chose a brown burgundy leather mini skirt. Again, we're using texture to add a bit more edge. The A-line shape defines the waist, and the shorter length allows for some fun, short-long contrast when layering, while also showing off our client's long legs. And finally, this color is probably the most unexpected in the capsule and might prove to be even more controversial than the black. However, this is another color that was specifically requested by the client, and I love the unorthodox contrast that it adds to the capsule. Then for outerwear, we chose a variety of styles to create a wide range of layered looks. First, a gray pinstripe double-breasted blazer. This is a core piece. The structure through the shoulders and subtly nipped-in waist feel tailored but not constricting, and the pinstripe adds just a bit of interest without being too bold. It's polished but still wearable for every day. Next, a black crossover blazer. This is a bit more statement than the gray blazer and is intended to be worn when more formal workwear is required, or to add edge and sharpness to lighter looks. The crossover closure emphasizes the waist, so it leans a bit more into that soft dramatic shape as well. Then a cropped navy leather jacket, which adds instant cool factor. The cropped length highlights the waist, and the leather adds texture and edge. Using navy instead of black keeps it slightly softer and more aligned with our palette. Next, a gray zip-up hoodie is your casual layer. The slightly cropped length keeps it from feeling sloppy, and it works surprisingly well layered with more structured pieces like blazers or miniskirts. That contrast is what makes it feel intentional rather than overly casual. And finally, a sage double-breasted trench. The length honors vertical, and the belt gives the option to bring back that waist definition. The color is a soft neutral that suits the soft summer color palette very well, while integrating with everything else in the capsule. Then for shoes, this is where we can bring in even more personality and contrast. First, a pair of subtle square toe ankle boots. These are a really strong everyday option. The slim shaft and slightly squared toe keep the line clean and elongated, and the deep brown adds depth without defaulting to black. They work just as well with tailored pieces as they do with denim. Next are these burgundy strappy platforms. These are funky yet elevated, and the silhouette is aligned with this client's love for chunky shoes. Yet the open shape keeps them from feeling too heavy. You can also style these with socks, which adds a bit of contrast and leans into that layered, slightly unexpected feel. And then these intentionally mismatched loafers, which are super fun. This is one of the more expressive pieces in the capsule. They add that slightly off element that makes an outfit feel more interesting, and they're a good option for every day when you still want to feel put together. For bags, we kept the palette really cohesive but added texture. First, a burgundy suede tote. This is your more casual, everyday option. The shape is slightly slouchy, which keeps it relaxed, but the color still feels rich and intentional. Then a pony hair shoulder bag in an almost brown wine tone. This is a bit more structured and elevated. The texture adds dimension, and the gold hardware brings in a bit of polish. And finally, accessories. First, we chose a black cord statement belt. This allows for optional waist definition without adding bulk, which works really well for the soft dramatic. And the irregular gold detail adds just enough visual interest. Next, this is a softer option from a color perspective, and olive was another favorite color for this client. The patent texture also adds lightness through shine. Finally, a pair of black rectangular sunglasses, ivory ruffle trim socks, and reddish-brown ribbed crew socks finish off the collection. The final capsule includes 9 tops, 6 bottoms, 5 outerwear pieces, 3 pairs of shoes, 2 bags, and 5 accessories for 30 items, which can create at least 90 interchangeable outfits. So when you put all of this together, what you get is a wardrobe that doesn't feel overly soft, but still strives to honor her natural coloring in a way that feels intentional. And I think this is the part that's really important, because the goal isn't to follow your color season perfectly, but it shouldn't be completely ignored either. The key is to understand your color type and then decide how far you actually want to push it. So in this case, instead of removing black, we adjusted how we used it by using washed black instead of true black and balancing it with a few carefully chosen soft summer tones. So the overall effect still feels cohesive, even though we're technically breaking the rules. And this applies beyond just soft summer. If your style feels disconnected with your color palette, you don't have to abandon it entirely. You just need to be a bit more intentional about how you execute it. You need pieces that work with your colors, your proportions, and the image that you want to project. But more importantly, you need to understand how those things interact, because they're not always going to align perfectly. Knowing how to make strategic adjustments is the real skill. And when you get that balance right, even a relatively small wardrobe can feel elevated, intentional, and true to you. If you're not sure what your body type or color season might be, or how to actually use those systems in a way that benefits your personal style, I offer body type and color analysis where I help you determine your proportions and color palette, so you can make more confident, intentional choices when building your wardrobe. I'll leave a link in the description if you'd like to learn more. And if you're interested to see how this approach changes across different body types and color palettes, I've created tons of other capsule wardrobe videos just like this. You can watch the full capsule wardrobe series right here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.